Welcome to this channel, this is Wesley, and it is Wesley's News.
Yep, and open up.
And it's important that we turn this into the museum, that people can come here and learn from Nikola Tesla.
I have been doing this for a long time. I'm 87 years old. How I can stand and talk is not a miracle to me, because I expected to go to 105.
The door opened by itself. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Скажем так, здесь каждый может себе купить такую тачку. Больших проблем нет. Не каждому выгодно ей выплачивать. В России не каждый может купить такую тачку. А если уже купил, то выплачивать ей всегда под вопросом.
Really? Is it waiting time for it, or it's like I pay the money and I have it? Oh, just a week. Okay.
Вова! Алло! Вовка! Владимир Владимирович! А у вас такая тачка есть? В гараже? Нет? Не сделали? Made in America? Понятно. А денег нету. Все бабло запихнули в Панаму вместе с Раудухиным и его величелей. Ну, так надо с Усмановым поговорить. Всегда давал, так и сейчас даст. Куда он денется? Молодая медсестра девушка после школы получает 4 миллиона 355 тысяч рублей в просчете ежегодно. Учитель между 5 а 6 миллионов рублей. Уборщик городской от 5 до 10 миллионов рублей в год. Так что если, допустим, супруга работает тоже учителем, то она платит на расходы на семью, а ты выплачиваешь за год такую тачку. У вас все это будет, русского народа не победить. Ну, конечно, все это будет после Вовы. И еще одно. Мы вам, друзья, не враги. У вас здесь сердце, руки, чувства, душа. Вы люди. Удачи. This is, of course, a very tiny section of the lab related to Tesla experiments, but tightly related to particle physics experiments. So now let's come back to Wardenclyffe Tower, Schuldam, Long Island, to the event that is made by people who wants to preserve memory of Nikola Tesla. Здесь идут большие бабки, в итоге, возможно, построят обратно башню Тесла.
So that lab building that's behind us, that was designed by Stanford White, that is going to be the Tesla Museum. Welcome to the Tesla Science Center.
He's the grandnephew of Nikola Tesla.
Племянник Теслы, семьи Джубоев.
But my father was also a very famous inventor, and when I went to gear design, I mentioned casually to the professor that I was the blood of Tesla, the son of my father, Nicola Trebojevic. George Westinghouse was a unique person in the sphere in which he traveled as a entrepreneur and a developer of important things. He was a technical person himself. He had considerable wealth from inventions that he had in the railroad industry, some very important things in the railroad industry. Grand uncle Nicola Tesla and George Westinghouse had a similar attitude. When George Westinghouse ran into trouble, that Nikola Tesla, who I think thought that great wealth was coming to him forever. I wish it had, because I would be here in the Mediterranean on a yacht right now, not talking to you people, but that's okay. It was within his idea of his friendship with George Westinghouse that he considered the work that George Westinghouse was doing, and I can talk about lots of elements, because I made a movie about George Westinghouse and Tesla together. it was important. And so the difficulty of him essentially releasing George Westinghouse from the obligation of paying royalties. I wish he'd just simply give me stock instead of the royalties, but he didn't do that because Nikola Tesla was a brilliant person, but not a born businessman. Now, Nikola Tesla, he was always criticized, but I'll tell you a different story a bit later, but he was always criticized for having a lot of affectations and not liking the shape of pearls, or not wanting to shake hands, or cleaning his silverware. Every one of the 3 pieces of silverware, he wanted his room number with 3, something divisible by 3. And when I first met Tesla as a kid, and for the next almost 70 years after that, I thought this was all a game that Tesla played with the personal press, that he was simply making him more interesting by being so idiosyncratic in the way he was working. And it took 70 years before I discovered why he welcomed me so warmly, because he did not like children in general. As W.C. Fields used to say, if you liked working with children, he said, yes, parboiled. That was his solution for that. But I saw that he saw in my mother a reflection of himself, because he had an older brother who died tragically, and I had an older brother who died tragically. And he somehow, when I was just young, he put those 2 things together. It changed my opinion that he was playing games with the press, to that he had a real soul thinking about this, because he knew how my mother suffered from losing the eldest child, the only other brother, and Tesla's mother also suffered dramatically from that time. So I believe that kind of arrangement, but some of these idiosyncrasies that he had were easy for him, of cleaning the silver. When I walk, we live in a closed community, all townhouses, and it takes 2 miles to walk around the outside. If the weather's bad, we walk around about 2.5 miles on the inside where they park the cars. And my wife still thinks that I'm a little bit daffy, because when we walk, I count the cars. And I count the cars and make what percentage of the cars are with each of 7 different groupings of townhouses. And I'm happy doing that. It doesn't bother me at all. It bothers my wife, but it doesn't bother me. So I say that is only one of, I have lots of other idiosyncrasies. If you get into a long time conversation with my wife, you'll find out what many of them are. Because she's not in favor of almost any of them. She doesn't understand how can I balance 5 different checkbooks, and I don't know where the costs are coming from. Could you pay attention? That's why.
The Tesla expert, Rock Brenner.
In the 1930s, a journalist asked Albert Einstein what it was like to be the most brilliant genius in the world. And Einstein replied, I don't know, you'll have to ask Nikola Tesla. 10 years before Einstein came up with his theory of relativity, Tesla said of electricity, he said, of all the forms of nature's immeasurable, all-pervading energy, which ever and ever change and move, like a soul animates an innate universe, electricity and magnetism are perhaps the most fascinating. There must be a constant quantity of electricity in nature, that it can neither be produced nor destroyed. The field is wide and completely unexplored, and at every step a new truth is gleaned, a novel fact observed. We are whirling through endless space with an inconceivable speed all around us. Everything is spinning, everything is moving, everything is energy. There must be some way of availing ourselves of this energy more directly. And that, of course, was the very idea behind the tower that stood right here where we stand and sit today.
In the early 1880s, over 130 years ago, it was a time of great change, of culture and technology in Europe and the United States. The composer Brahms was popular. Perhaps Tesla would have listened to his music. Where Tesla was born, Serbia was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. In Budapest, the capital city of Hungary, construction was underway of a beautiful parliament building. This was around the same time the Eiffel Tower was built in Paris. This was a year before the 27-year-old Nikola Tesla emigrated to the United States. He was working for a company that was bringing the newly invented telephone to the people and businesses of Hungary. In the park, along the banks of the beautiful blue Danube River, in Budapest, the young Tesla is reciting a work of literature that inspired him. Here he comes now. Tesla often recited long passages from memory as taught by his mother. That's how he trained his mind, which was often occupied by deep thoughts, inventions, and visions that flashed before him. Tesla knows this passage by heart. It was from a famous book by the German writer Goethe. Tesla could read and speak German as well as half a dozen other languages. Faust. Faust is a dark, sad tale of an old doctor who makes a pact with the devil in order to have youth, love, and worldly desires. And of course, Faust does not get what he bargained for. Yet Tesla saw beauty and inspiration about how to live his life in this story. Reciting Faust was like a mantra as he meditated on the setting sun as he walked along the river. He may have seen the spires of the Parliament building under construction. It was late afternoon, the sun was low, the temperature dropping. He took in the beauty as he was always inspired by nature. Then he recited this passage. The glow retreats, done is the day of toil. It yonder hastes new fields of life exploring. Ah, that no wing can lift me from the soil, upon its tracks to follow, soaring. And Tesla did soar, not like the birds, not like the clouds, but always in his imagination. Right at that moment, Tesla is said to have drawn a design in the sand. It was for the most important invention, the induction motor, which then became the basis for alternating current, AC, that we use every day. As he described it, we wind a simple ring of iron with coils. We establish connections to the generator, and with wonder and delight, we note the effects of strange forces which we bring into play, which allow us to transform, to transmit and direct energy at will. He might have drawn something like this. When electricity passes through the ring of coils, it produces a magnetic field. As the motor spins, the magnetic field changes poles from north to south and back again. This sets up an electromagnet that produces electricity too. Tesla thought if you set up two magnetic fields, they might cancel out each other. But by setting up several magnetic fields that are slightly out of phase, we can induce more electricity. A new concept. This was the birth of the induction motor and what was to become alternating current. And now we know what inspired Tesla. What inspires you? Do you have such visions as Tesla might have had? He cut a very dramatic figure to those who knew him. And as you've heard these stories before from the previous speakers, he had great vision, great understanding of what people needed, and he was willing to give his visions to the world. destiny, and many thanks to Christopher Nicola. His real name is Nicola. Thank you so much. And Brahms thanks you too. Okay. Great.
I think that was pretty dramatic and wonderful. Thank you so much. You can take a walk by the beautiful Danube and maybe have your photo taken with Tesla. I think that it's been really fun today. We have something very special to share with you. It's an instrument.
To get a view, the antenna to the left, stage left of the instrument, the bronze one, is the transmitter of the field. Then the taller antenna is the receiver. So when the instrument is in operation, the field is produced, and the frequency of the field is modified through the movements of your hands and your own individual field that's output by the synaptic movements in your body. And through that manipulation, using your own internal energy input, you're able to manipulate the frequency at which it oscillates to different values. So your right hand, when using the instrument, is your pitch hand. So the closer you get to the antenna, the higher the distortion. So the field will raise and we'll get a higher pitch. The further back is lower, so we're moving lower down the scale there. And then over that antenna that I talked about previously, that's the volume antenna. So the closer your left hand gets down, that's your shutoff, so that you're able to actually put pauses between notes as opposed to just sliding freely between them and having no continuous melody gameplay.
for spacious skies, for amber waves of